The anime begins with a fierce battle about which we won't learn anything until later, since no context is given for why it happens. From there, we meet the protagonist, Yoshihito, an ordinary guy with ordinary goals: to get a job that pays over $200,000 a month, get married, and, if possible, buy a car. For now, he only has a house left to him by his parents, but he can't rent it out because it's too far from the city. He did at least achieve one goal, graduating from university, so now he's focused on finding a job. On the day of an interview, however, the bus that would take him there leaves him behind after he gives his seat to a pregnant woman. Trapped in the crowd, he's left outside the bus. While trying to chase the bus, he's stopped by a girl handing out flyers. Seeing that no one will take them, she hands all of them to Yoshihito and leaves. He notices their gynecology flyers and, embarrassed, tucks them away before trying again to reach the interview, but he loses the chance once more. This time he trips over a girl's suitcase. He apologizes and runs, but when he arrives, he discovers the place he was going to work is a femboy club that's already gone bankrupt, so it's unclear whether he would have gotten the job. After that, he gives up job hunting for the day and falls asleep on a park bench, later awakened by the girl whose suitcase he tripped over. She apologizes, she'd been confused and lost with the directions, and asks him for help getting to an address she has written down. Yoshihito realizes it's his house. She explains she tried to reach that address but failed, so she came to ask if he knew it, and is surprised to find the landlord instead. Yoshihito daydreams about whether fate is bringing them together, but comes back to reality when he realizes she was simply mistaken and the house she's looking for is elsewhere. She asks him to help her get there, and they ride a bus together at night. On the way, Yoshihito realizes how naive she is for trusting a stranger. The bus drops them at the old village stop called Nijuku. They still haven't reached Yoshihito's house, so they must walk several blocks. He tells her that, even if it's not dangerous, it's better not to go out at night. She replies she's not afraid of bad people. She's already defeated many of them. When she trips over her suitcase again, Yoshihito helps her and finds it unexpectedly heavy. Surprised she's carried it all day. He's even more surprised when she lifts it as if it's nothing. Further along, he notices the atmosphere getting tense and sees more bats than usual. The girl asks him to move ahead for a moment while she stays behind to deal with something. Yoshihito doesn't understand what's happening, and the girl sniffs him, saying she's learned his scent and will be able to find him. Still, he refuses to abandon her, and because of that, she ends up involving him in a battle. The girl transforms, taking on the appearance of a wolf to confront a vampire girl. The vampire manages to trick her rival and then approaches Yoshihito, but the wolf girl prevents her from doing anything by throwing a couple of bricks at her. The vampire leaves the place, while the wolf girl approaches Yoshihito to tell him she won't go to his house after all. She also asks him to forget everything she saw. As she walks away, Yoshihito stops her, refusing to let her sleep alone on a bench or under a bridge. That's how he convinces her to become his tenant, even if it might get her into trouble, since she somehow wants to repay him for rescuing her. Once they arrive at the house, Yoshihito shows her around: the living room, the bathroom, and the kitchen. Finally, he takes her to the bedroom, where he offers her a borrowed futon, which will be decorated with cartoons. He also asks how long she plans to stay as a tenant, and she replies it will be for a long time since she works as a freelancer and needs a place to rest. That's all they have to talk about for now, so after all the day's excitement, they decide to rest. The next day, the girl, named Lily as they just revealed, gets scared when she sees Yoshihito's cat. He calms her down and shows her that his cat is harmless. Lily tries to watch TV, but it doesn't work. Yoshihito checks and notices bats circling outside the house and that the place is freezing. Afraid it's the vampire's doing, Lily transforms to fight. The vampire enters the house to separate Yoshihito from Lily, as she thinks Lily has kidnapped him. She tells Yoshihito to run while she covers for him. Apparently, the vampire is Lily's rival, and it doesn't help that wolves and vampires usually don't get along. Yoshihito doesn't run away and watches them fight like little kids inside his house. He scolds them and complains about the things they break. Then they stop and apologize. Lily says that since she now lives in the house, she wants to protect Yoshihito from the vampire who supposedly wants to suck his blood. The vampire denies this and clarifies that she came to protect him from Lily's hidden intentions. She also says she's interested in becoming a tenant because of an advertisement she saw. Yoshihito is surprised she's there for that reason. Then he finds out the vampire is hungry and prepares something to eat. When he mentions he doesn't have blood, the vampire says she's given that up since humans nowadays consume all sorts of toxins and she doesn't want indigestion. The vampire introduces herself as Vivian and shows Yoshihito the flyer with the advertisement she saw. He learns she has been sleeping in cemeteries, so he decides to make a sacrifice and allow her to live in his house too, on the condition they don't fight and promising not to tell anyone about their existence. Not a minute passes before they start fighting again, as usual, breaking the table in the process. Yoshihito tells Lily to clean up while he goes with Vivian to her room. Vivian looks for the things she left outside and, when she returns, realizes she lost her wallet and can't pay rent. She blames Lily, saying she lost it in last night's battle. Vivian was already thinking of leaving while Lily celebrated, but Yoshihito, being a good guy, tells her to stay and pay later. Vivian, in gratitude, cooks for them, mentioning she's a good cook. It turns out to be true, and even Lily likes her food, though Yoshihito makes it clear that cooking won't pay the rent. After that, Yoshihito receives a call from a woman who sets up an interview for a job at a trading company later that afternoon. The next day, we see Yoshihito getting off a bus in a sort of deserted town. He then receives a call from someone at the company who gives him instructions. Yoshihito follows the directions, placing his hand on a lamppost and looking up at the sky where he sees something like a castle. Then, the person on the call tells him to remove his hand from the post and keep looking up to be transported there. He removes his hand and is transported, appearing before a huge door that begins to open. Yoshihito approaches to look, but behind him appears an electric spirit who indicates the way. He reaches a door and knocks, but is told to enter because it's not locked. Inside, he meets an albino girl who tells him she will be in charge of his interview, informing him that this is the space-time address, Subdivision EN35, Hachiuji office. She also introduces herself as Raven. She asks Yoshihito to take a seat, and he does, then asks why she called him. Raven says it's for an interview, and Yoshihito replies that he doesn't see any trading company here. Raven explains that they belong to the Xiling Empire and manage universes, as their main goal is to improve universal cohesion. Yoshihito thinks he died and the gods are giving him this job. Then, Raven reveals that she sent Lily and Vivian as they were part of his interview, and also informs him that more tenants will be sent soon. Raven transports Yoshihito to another place and explains that he must control and keep safe the fantastic creatures. He asks why it has to be him and what would happen if he refused. Raven says that lately the creatures have been acting strangely and it's his choice whether he wants the job or not. But if he refuses, she will collect Lily and Vivian from his house to erase their memories and prevent him from encountering fantastic creatures again. She clarifies that he's not being forced to work and it's his decision, but also mentions he won't work for free since he will be sent to dangerous places to find tenants who will be previously screened. She informs him he will have good pay and support. Yoshihito looks at the contract and thinks about signing, as he'll be able to rent and receive good pay. Then we see him place the pen on the table, but Raven transports him back to the lamppost. He gets discouraged and takes the contract with him. There, he receives a call from Lily, who says Vivian has been acting strange, having gone out in the afternoon and not yet returned. Yoshihito sighs and takes the bus back home. Later, we see Yoshihito at home telling Lily and Vivian the news that he was hired by Subdivision EN35. Vivian says she had never heard of it, and Yoshihito explains they belong to the Xiling Empire. He also asks where she went that afternoon. She says she went out because she heard that a demon hunter is nearby. Yoshihito asks what demon hunters are. Vivian says they are half human, half monster, and they hunt beings like them. She adds that lately they've been mixing with human religions and hunting fantastic creatures. Yoshihito recalls what Raven said about some creatures acting strangely lately. He asks Vivian if they will come after them. She says she only sensed a faint presence, but isn't sure. Yoshihito suggests telling Raven, but she says no, because if they do come to attack, she will leave and take Lily with her, not wanting Yoshihito involved. Later, we see Yoshihito sleeping when he has a dream that feels incredibly realistic, in which he is attacked by wolves. Lily wakes Yoshihito from his nightmare, and when he looks at his hand, he notices tufts of hair from the wolf that attacked him. Later, Yoshihito, along with Lily and Vivian, examine the tufts of hair. Vivian says she doesn't detect any dark magic in them, so it couldn't be that. Then, Lily sniffs the hair and says it smells like grass and mud, but not like any wolf she knows. At that moment, Vivian places a protective charm on Yoshihito since they don't know what it could be. Lily wonders if someone might have entered and put it on his hand. Vivian says she thought the same but didn't sense anyone's presence. Then we see Vivian start offering Yoshihito sacred and protective artifacts. He asks her if she really is a vampire since all those objects are usually used to kill vampires. Vivian says they don't affect her and serve as psychological work. She tries to use her blood magic on Yoshihito, but it's instantly nullified. However, Lily is affected by the magic and falls asleep. Then Vivian tells Yoshihito that the magic shouldn't affect him, and if it does, it should be just a little. Yoshihito says he'll ask Raven and takes out his phone, seeing that Raven is calling him, letting him know she wants to see him early the next day. Yoshihito shows up to meet Raven. When he's not received, he decides to go back and sleep, but right then she appears, startling him with the power suit she's wearing. She also shows him her weapon, a sword she uses to cut down trees and, I imagine, to fight as well. Raven asks him to wait while she finishes her work because she has something to give him. Yoshihito waits in her office, and later Raven appears in her director's uniform. There, she tells him she will give him a terminal data for personal use. Upon receiving it, Yoshihito notices it looks like a woman's powder box, but then realizes it's something else. He activates the terminal, which can be controlled by his mind. Thanks to it, he can call for help and perform other functions while in combat or about to die. The terminal also allows him to use Shift, a technology that lets the user's soul be placed in a container to work from there. Yoshihito gets scared because he doesn't want any of that to happen, especially entering combat. But Raven tells him that would make him practically immortal. However, he knows it's a form of labor exploitation, yet he still keeps the terminal. Then Raven tells him that besides that, she will send him on his first mission, but first must explain some things. She takes him to a place called the Strengthening Center, where, as its name implies, rookies like Yoshihito undergo treatment to physically strengthen themselves to implant small special abilities. Raven brings out a coffin-like device that Yoshihito must enter. He refuses, but Raven kicks him in. Inside, he struggles to get out, but it's impossible. Raven activates the protocol, injecting him with something. The coffin spins and slowly heats up while delivering electric shocks. Suddenly, the coffin disappears, and Raven, surprised by what happened, doesn't know what occurred. Then we see Yoshihito wake up in an unknown place. Looking at the sky, he notices two moons, one bigger than the other. He gets up to move forward, but the terminal comes out of his pocket to warn him that the strengthening switched to a special mode. The terminal introduces itself to Yoshihito as his guide and companion. Feeling cold, he asks for a coat, but the terminal doesn't have that function. He calls it useless, and the terminal gets mad at him, saying its only duty is to guide him and asks him to call it Data. Data explains they are in a parallel space to the real world called the Dream Dimension. It gives him 3 warnings to keep in mind there. First, if he dies there, he also dies in the real world. Second, any major incident happening there will be remembered in the real world. And third, less important, Data asks him to put it back in his pocket and not have it floating around all the time. Yoshihito hears a noise but ignores the request, as they're in danger when a pack of wolves, the same ones from his dream, appear. Yoshihito can't escape and is attacked, unconsciously activating a defensive shield that covers his body, protecting him from their bites. Seeing they can't hurt him, the wolves howl to call the leader's attention, a giant wolf that chases Yoshihito until it catches him. But whenever it tries to harm him, the shield blocks it. The wolf gets angry, and Yoshihito realizes it can talk, as it asks him where he comes from since humans usually don't enter their lands. Yoshihito lies, telling him he is a traveler, but the wolf knows this isn't true because humans living in that world are very different from him. Now, the wolf plans to give Yoshihito as food to the younger ones since he damaged other wolves' fangs with his strange power, and they won't be able to hunt. Yoshihito says he can fix their fangs, and the wolf somewhat agrees, carrying him on its back to another place while telling him about the humans of that world who eat everything and have even defeated dragons. After a while, the wolf leaves Yoshihito at an abandoned house where he promises to help with the fang repairs. The wolf walks away as Yoshihito enters the house, where he interacts with a device that teleports him back to the coffin, returning him to Earth. There, he tells Raven that his strengthening was a horrible experience, gaining only one power, the barrier, and that he would at least like to have a final skill. Raven explains that this is how strengthening works, and that he will gradually discover the rest of his abilities. Raven also explains the Dream Dimension, formerly known as the Phantom Dimension, an unstable place originating from a special structure where ordinary people cannot enter unless they have a special artifact. Yoshihito says he has already been there in one of his dreams, showing her as evidence the fur of one of the wolves he saw. Raven says nothing about it and gives him his new mission. He must go to Europe to find a new tenant, handing him 3 plane tickets and mentioning that details of the mission are in his terminal. After leaving Yoshihito, Raven uses the wolf fur he brought from his dreams to perform a kind of ritual, discovering something I'll tell you about later. Putting that aside, Yoshihito is already on the flight along with Lily and Vivian, where they wonder who will be the new person living with them. Vivian is surprised at how high airplanes fly, since if she tried to fly that high, her wings would freeze. So she prefers to fly low but very fast, so fast that it's imperceptible to the human eye. After a long time, they arrive in a city in England. Since they have no money, they have to walk to the hotel. Luckily, Vivian has been to England before and can speak English fluently, but then she realizes no one understands her because she lived there 100 years ago. Not knowing how to get to the hotel, Vivian has the idea to give the invitation letter to Lily, so she can sniff it and lead them there. Lily refuses, but once she learns they will eat for free, she agrees, magically finding the hotel. Once there, they settle in. But Lily starts eating a banquet while Vivian lies down to sleep, annoying Yoshihito because he's there on a mission and scolds them to pay attention. After the scolding, he calls Data to help him locate the tenant. Then he receives a call from Raven asking how the mission is going, but Yoshihito says they just arrived and the map doesn't work. Raven remembers she didn't update his terminal and asks him to wait while she tells someone else to help with that. Raven disconnects, and automatically Yoshihito's terminal begins to update. Thanks to the update, Data can now translate any text and conversation, but now can't speak ill of Raven, or else a lightning bolt will strike it, and Yoshihito had just called her stingy, so a lightning bolt suddenly hits him. After that, they go out to eat, and while doing so, Vivian, through a creature she left watching, discovers they're in danger, so they decide to return to the room. But a man in a suit interrupts to ask what danger they're talking about. Vivian asks who he is, and he introduces himself as Mitsuya Nangu. Nangu sits to talk with them because he knows where his tenant is, a place called Yorkford, where he has some business. But when he asks Yoshihito and the girls why they want to go there, each gives a different answer so as not to spoil the mission. Nangu tells them that to get to Yorkford, they must take a train that takes a whole day to arrive because it's quite far, a place only for explorers since it's ruins with a castle. He also warns that if they go there, they should be careful since ghosts have recently been appearing in the area. That night, Yoshihito is worried, wondering if his new tenant will be problematic, likely the cause of ghost troubles. Then Vivian approaches him to say that one of her creatures found the seal used by demon hunters, implying there's a hunter at the hotel, which might be Nangu. Nangu appears on the next balcony to reveal he is indeed a demon hunter, but Yoshihito and Vivian don't believe him, mocking that someone like that would never reveal their secret. Nangu tries to prove he's a hunter using one of his skills, but trips and falls into the void, being rescued by Yoshihito. After that, they go inside to talk, and he shows them one of his hunter's seals. Nangu offers to guide them to the castle. Yoshihito agrees, and they arrange to meet the next day to catch the train. Vivian tells Yoshihito they shouldn't trust Nangu, since he might not be interested in them, but in the new tenant. The next day, we see Yoshihito and the others already on the train. There, they hear news about ghosts, and a big reward for solving the mystery, exciting Vivian, as she's the poorest in the group. On the train, there's also a trio coming to hunt ghosts. When they arrive, Nangu gets excited and moves forward to chase the ghost, making Vivian doubt him because he hasn't realized that she and Lily are fantastic creatures too. Since it's nighttime, they stop at a hotel. The owner there turns out to be the guy they saw interviewed on TV. He tells them there are no more rooms, but will give them one for coming from so far away. The girls are given a separate room, while Yoshihito has to share one with Nangu. The girls head to their room, leaving Yoshihito alone at the reception. The receptionist asks if they came because of the ghosts at the castle, and Yoshihito says he's just a tourist. But Nangu, who's probably a novice, says he's a demon hunter, revealing his identity. He does this because nowadays it's very hard to find work as a demon hunter, so he brags about himself to promote it. The receptionist recalls cartoons making reference to Scooby-Doo and catching ghosts. Since he liked them, he introduces himself as August, also the hotel owner. Nangu takes the chance to ask about the castle or the ghost. Anything useful. August leads them to a table. Previously, Nangu had asked for a map of the castle, but August explains there isn't one, since the castle was once famous but lately forgotten, so no records of a map exist. For a long time, approaching it has been forbidden. The castle has a legend. A revolt happened there, and many knights died. Now, the dead are ghosts who attack those who come seeking treasure, because the first lord of the castle loved collecting all kinds of treasures and relics, amassing a great fortune. Because of that, he built many traps and gadgets in the castle to prevent intruders from stealing his treasure. Over time, the lord grew old, and after his death, his children inherited his fortune. Among the 3 children, the eldest inherited the treasures, but the other 2 rebelled, sparking the revolt where many died. The castle became a battlefield, even spilling blood on the chapel's crucifix, resulting in the death of the 3 brothers. In summary, the place is almost forgotten, which is why no map exists. Yoshihito tells Vivian the story, and she says she sent several of her bats to the castle, where they sensed things that might match the ghosts from the tale. Though she isn't sure if they're real ghosts, she suspects they're not the same causing the recent disturbances, since ghosts usually don't surface, and the ones August saw were above ground. So she's not quite sure who or what is causing all that, but her new roomie is somehow involved. Later, Yoshihito enters his room, surprising Nangu, who is looking at a portrait of a girl. Nangu explains it's his sister. Yoshihito asks why the photo shows her back turned, and Nangu replies he'd like one from the front, but his sister is too strong and wouldn't understand. Maybe she just doesn't like photos or something. After that, Nangu goes to sleep in a special demon hunter's bag that doesn't really help. Yoshihito approaches the photo and asks why he's not next to his sister. Nangu says his sister is also a demon hunter, but he became one first to protect her. That same night, August leaves the hotel with the 3 explorers chasing the castle's reward. August charges them a fee, saying he's the only one who knows the way, unaware that Nangu is spying on him. At midnight, Vivian enters Yoshihito's room to tell him that Nangu has already started acting. The 3 explorers who came with them on the train weren't there either, so they had to hurry to get to the castle and rescue their tenant in case something happened to him. Yoshihito gets up, and together they go to wake Lily. Meanwhile, August warns the explorers about the ghosts, emphasizing that it's very important not to approach or look at the cursed chapel, or else the ghosts will come after them. Then they hear a strange noise, unaware that Nangu is on top of the vehicle. Back with Yoshihito, he is being carried by Vivian through the air, while Lily runs on foot. Vivian finds a shortcut thanks to the bats. On the way, Yoshihito activates another one of his abilities, enhancing his vision, and notices that Lily is running while asleep, which causes her to crash ahead. Coincidentally, she crashes into a cave that happens to be the shortcut to the castle. Once they cross the cave, they realize they have arrived just in time with August and the rest of the explorers, although there are other explorers there as well. Yoshihito asks Data if she has any idea where the tenant might be, but Data refuses to help because he called her useless. For now, they decide to explore the ruins, hiding from Nangu so he doesn't see them. Further ahead, they find the cursed chapel and hear sounds coming from inside. When they try to enter, they hide to avoid being seen by explorers already in the area. The explorers, frightened, get closer to the chapel, but thanks to Vivian and Lily, they get even more scared and flee the place. With no obstacles, Lily uses her great strength to move a rock blocking the entrance. Once inside, they detect the scent of another human. They also find strange writings on the chapel's crucifix. Yoshihito compliments Data to get her to translate what it says. The text is a clue to open a secret door. Vivian guides Lily to solve the puzzle, taking a few steps to find and lift the correct block, revealing the secret entrance. They open a subterranean door where the new tenant is located. Once inside, we see Yoshihito using Data to light the way and guide them to find the new tenant. Yoshihito stops and Lily asks what's wrong. He doesn't answer, and we see that the tunnel has several paths. Vivian mentions they look like paths used in war. Yoshihito asks if battles took place underneath. Vivian says no, they were just used for safe passage. Lily interrupts, saying she smells people down one path. She runs ahead trying to reach the humans. Yoshihito and Vivian follow her, telling her to wait. Meanwhile, we see Nangu searching for something. He places a paper on a round stone and says some words to make the stone float, revealing a hole in the ground. He approaches and says it's a perfect place for a demon hunter. Then, the paper falls off the stone, causing it to drop, and Nangu quickly slips into the hole. Back with Yoshihito, he's resting with Lily and Vivian, but they hear a strange noise and go to check if it's the new tenant. While walking, Yoshihito jokes he'll charge 3 rents just for coming to get him. When they arrive, they realize it's just August, carrying heavy gear. Vivian decides to use her magic and transform into ghosts to avoid being seen and find out what's going on. Yoshihito agrees but notices Lily scared August earlier, so he and Vivian decide to approach and ask what he's doing there. August says he's just making news to attract tourists. Vivian tells Yoshihito the smoke that's hiding them will soon disperse. Yoshihito decides to scare August away. He flees, apologizing. The smoke clears, and Yoshihito wonders where Lily went. She calls him to show a writing on a wall. Vivian says it's Letta script, commonly used by demon hunters for exorcisms. Yoshihito asks if she can translate it. She says it seems they sealed several evils there, and when the door closes, the guardians will awaken. Yoshihito wonders if it's a good idea to be there. Vivian suggests the lord of the place wasn't just a noble, but maybe a demon hunter or linked to them. Vivian touches the wall, triggering magic that sets off traps and arrows falling from the ceiling. Yoshihito activates his barrier to protect his companions as they flee. They escape thanks to Lily breaking through a wall. Back with Nangu, he's crawling through a narrow path when a mouse jumps on him, startling him. He uses another talisman to create a small explosion, which also affects him. Back with Yoshihito, he looks happy they made it through, but notices a rolling stone coming toward them. He tells everyone to hug the wall to dodge it. Lily chases the stone, but falls into a trap. Yoshihito and Vivian follow her. Vivian spreads her wings to rescue Lily, but senses something strange. Back with Nangu, he's in the same spot Yoshihito was moments ago. He looks at some letters but doesn't understand them. However, he senses magic and touches the wall. This triggers the arrow trap. Back with Yoshihito, Vivian and Lily descend through the trap where Lily fell. reaching a place filled with thick fog. At that moment, Yoshihito falls on top of the two girls, saying he couldn't stop and that's why he fell. The fog clears, revealing a great treasure and lots of food. Lily and Vivian get excited and try to grab the items, but Yoshihito stops them. Vivian and Lily realize it was just an illusion and that they almost fell off a huge cliff. Lily asks if that didn't affect him, and he replies no, since he only saw them approaching that drop. Then, they take a narrow path and keep walking through the underground tunnels. Vivian asks Lily if she smells anything, and she says no. Vivian asks Yoshihito why he didn't tell them to bring the tenant to the house, and he says he couldn't, that he was only told to come get him. They recap what has happened so far. As they continue, Yoshihito mentions the new tenant wasn't at the exorcist camp since Data didn't sense anything. He also mentions the scream at the entrance, which could have been caused by Nangu, who might have encountered the new tenant. He also talks about the letters they found on the tombstone at the entrance, and the ones Vivian was able to read. As they keep walking, a trap seems to activate in a certain place. Letters start appearing on the walls, which begin closing in on them. Yoshihito notices and asks what's happening. Vivian says the walls will crush them if they don't move quickly. Lily tries to break the walls but runs out of strength. Vivian also collapses since her magic has been limited. Vivian tells Yoshihito to go ahead to the next room. Yoshihito says he won't leave them and uses his hands to stop the walls. They stop, and he asks if Vivian did that. She says no. Then Lily regains her strength, and they continue. Back with Nangu, we see him come out with some arrows stuck in his back. After dodging the same rolling ball trap, he falls into an underground lake. Back with Yoshihito, he's resting with the girls. Suddenly, ghost knights rise from the ground and start attacking them. They run but get intercepted by another knight, whom Lily defeats and whose sword she uses to break a door. Vivian causes debris to fall and block the entrance after crossing. She also mentions they're not the only knights around. Lily says there are letters on the sword. Vivian translates, "Eternal warriors, the demon stone is sealed. Kill any intruder." Vivian says they are mistaken. These aren't the sealed knights, but a demon. Yoshihito asks what would happen if they break the seal. Vivian says if it's an evil demon, it could take over the whole world. Yoshihito asks Vivian what the sealing stone looks like. She says it's a black quartz with red tips. Yoshihito looks up, sees the stone sealing the demon, and asks if that's the stone. Vivian says it somewhat resembles it. Meanwhile, Nangu finds a place emitting a lot of magic. To get in, he decides to break the walls with his talismans to get there faster. The explosion moves the quartz, sealing the demon, causing some doors to open and attracting more ghost knights, who surround Yoshihito and the girls. Yoshihito uses his barrier to protect himself from the debris caused by Nangu's explosions. When he realizes it's Nangu, he tells Lily and Vivian to return to their human forms so they won't be discovered, but they are in trouble because they're surrounded. Lily says she'll destroy them, but Nangu starts attacking the ghost knights until he notices Yoshihito is there. He asks what he's doing there, and Yoshihito doesn't know what to say. Nangu tells him not to worry, that he will help him. He jumps in saying he'll defeat them all but falls, hitting the ground hard. Yoshihito approaches to check if he's okay. Nangu gets up saying this is nothing for a demon hunter, but then the knights begin to move to attack. Nangu tells Yoshihito to stand behind him, promising to protect them. He jumps, saying they will have the honor of being defeated by him, releasing a sort of sparkling dust in the air. He casts a spell that paralyzes the ghost knights and finishes them off with his crossbow while laughing. Vivian comments that he fights crudely, but notices they're surrounded again. Yoshihito wonders what they'll do now. Vivian says she'll take care of it and asks them to buy her time while she gathers magic. Yoshihito and Lily start fighting the knights, protecting Vivian so she can accumulate the necessary magic. Nangu keeps fighting but runs out of arrows, falls, and is surrounded by knights. Yoshihito asks Vivian if she's gathered the magic. She says yes and apologizes for making them wait. Vivian tells Lily to prepare for the attack. Lily grabs a big rock, throws it up, then punches it, breaking it into pieces that hit several ghost knights. One piece hits Nangu, knocking him out. Vivian flies up and releases her attack, which is absorbed by the stone sealing the demon. The stone fires a beam into the sky, turning it a deep red. Yoshihito says he has a bad feeling. Vivian says they used their magic to summon it. Then, meteors fall from the sky, destroying the place, and we see a demon in the air. Yoshihito approaches Nangu, trying to wake him, but they are attacked by the demon, who launches a fireball at Yoshihito's position. He uses his barrier to protect them. The demon notices and approaches, carrying off Yoshihito and Nangu. Vivian and Lily pursue the demon. Yoshihito looks at the demon and faints. The demon stops in the middle of a forest and looks at Yoshihito, but is reached by Vivian and Lily. Seeing them, he releases Yoshihito. Vivian tries to confront the demon since their powers are similar. While Vivian unleashes all her power, she creates gusts of wind that clear the clouds, revealing two moons, one red and one normal. normal. Lily, seeing the moons, faints. Vivian is ready and decides to attack the demon with her best spell. The demon starts speaking and asks Yoshihito if he is the landlord. Vivian stops upon hearing that. The demon introduces himself as Isaac. Then Data appears, saying he is the new tenant. Vivian asks if Data is sure. Data says the signal points to him. Isaac offers Yoshihito a contract. Vivian tells him not to do it. Lily introduces herself to Isaac. Vivian gets angry, saying Yoshihito accepted too quickly. Data informs Yoshihito that he can't refuse the pact, as it's part of his work. Isaac takes Nangu, thanks him for opening the door, and then sends him flying away. Isaac gets sad because he left without saying anything. Data informs them that Isaac comes from another world and hopes they can take care of him. Since he is kind and tender-hearted, Vivian tells them not to be fooled, since he threw a meteorite at them. Isaac approaches and thanks her for giving him so much magic and says she is a great sorceress, making Vivian blush. Yoshihito notices people approaching where they are. Isaac says he will kill them with his meteorites. Yoshihito stops him and asks if he can take human form. Isaac says yes and transforms into a muscular bald man. Yoshihito says that even in that form, he's scary. The next day, we see Yoshihito at Subdivision N35, talking with Raven about the new tenant. Raven says it seems they had fun. He replies they almost died. Raven asks how the tenant behaves. He says the tenant wants to destroy almost everything with meteorites. Raven asks if anything more interesting happened, but he just scolds her for not telling him they only had to destroy the demon's stone. Yoshihito takes the chance to ask Raven what Isaac really is, and she tells him that, although it doesn't look like it, he is a demon known as the Space Demon. Yoshihito's hairs stand on end and says that's much worse. Raven tells him that Isaac used to fight alone against the entire universe, conquering all species, but now he is peaceful. Yoshihito asks if he won't cause any danger or threat. Raven says maybe. Back at Yoshihito's house, we see Isaac deciding to look for a job, which impresses Lily and Vivian. Lily tells Vivian that Isaac is responsible, unlike her who owes 3 months' rent. After that, Yoshihito returns home and finds those two arguing, with Isaac trying to stop them. Later, we see Yoshihito enter Vivian's room while she's organizing it, and Vivian shows him a plaque she found with some letters. Yoshihito tells her that's a treasure to him, showing her a stone he found in the castle, as well as the piece he found in the dream dimension. Vivian gathers the pieces and starts deciphering what they say, since they might hold a clue to Yoshihito's dreams. Vivian mentions they might be connected and relate to some ancient magic, so she tries to decode them but can't succeed. Then, Yoshihito receives a call from Isaac, who was arrested. Yoshihito goes to get him. Later that night, we see Lily wake up, and when she opens her eyes, we notice she doesn't seem herself, but then she goes back to sleep. The next day, we see Yoshihito heading toward Raven, who called him to arrive early at the subdivision. On the way, he notices a girl with purple hair who greets him. Yoshihito meets Raven, who is upset because his new tenant was left 895 light years from the planet. She asks him to go get him. He asks how he'll go to space. Raven says not to worry. She'll arrange for him to be teleported to the terminal where he'll start his trip. Raven gives him a card that heals any mortal wounds, and also assigns him a companion, the purple-haired girl. She also says this girl will be his new tenant, which surprises Yoshihito. Later, Yoshihito brings the girl home and introduces her as Satsuki, a terrestrial mermaid. Vivian is impressed and explains that mermaids are rare to see, and a terrestrial one is even rarer. Also, there are only female mermaids. Suddenly, Satsuki's stomach growls with hunger. Vivian says she'll prepare something special to welcome her. Satsuki is amazed to see a vampire cooking for a werewolf. Vivian jokes she's just feeding her to eat later and starts arguing with Lily. Isaac tries to stop them. Then, Yoshihito tells them about going to find the new tenant. Vivian and Lily offer to go with him. Vivian says she'll accompany him anywhere on Earth, but Yoshihito tells her it will be 895 light years away, in space, and that Satsuki will go with him. Lily offers to go, but starts having stomach pains, so Yoshihito tells her not this time, but maybe next time. Isaac volunteers, since he has experience on spaceships. Yoshihito accepts and plans to go with Isaac and Satsuki. They will leave tomorrow. Later, Yoshihito goes to get a drink because he can't sleep, but is startled by Satsuki, who asks if he's nervous about the trip. He says no. Satsuki asks what kind of creature he really is. Yoshihito says he's just a human. Satsuki is impressed that a human lives with 3 fantastic creatures and thinks he must be some kind of master leader. Yoshihito says no, he's just a slightly modified human. He asks Satsuki the purpose of her trip. She says it's a secret. Yoshihito asks why, and to avoid answering, she asks him to stop speaking so formally. He says they just met. Satsuki says it doesn't matter and goes to sleep. The next day, we see Yoshihito with Satsuki and Isaac outside the house, preparing to be teleported to the ship where they will travel. Data tells them he will teleport them to the space station now. Yoshihito says he's not mentally ready yet, but they get teleported. Upon arrival, a green-haired girl greets them as their guide and welcomes them to the Kuiper space station. Yoshihito asks if she's an alien, and Data confirms she is. Yoshihito is surprised they aren't what he imagined. Satsuki starts jumping to see if gravity changes, but it doesn't. The guide explains and gives a brief tour of the station so they can get acquainted. She also says the station has Earth's gravity, because most visitors come from planets with similar gravity, so they adapted it. She also mentions they will soon see beings that Yoshihito will like, which excites him. The guide leads them to their spaceship, where Martians and other species are loading resources for the trip. Data urges them that they must leave soon. Upon entering, Yoshihito notices no one is aboard and asks Data about it. He replies that there wasn't much budget, and the ship will only be used once since it's for a single trip. Yoshihito says Raven is stingy. Data says he will report what was said and he apologizes. Then a hologram of the ship's captain appears, telling them they will soon take off and that the ship won't take even a day to reach the destination, as it can travel 200 million light years. Yoshihito mentions they won't even travel half that distance, but says it's fine. The ship begins to take off. Meanwhile, at home, Vivian and Lily are in the living room. Lily says Yoshihito abandoned them. Vivian tells her not to get depressed, that next time she'll be able to go with him. Lily asks if he can fly her there, but Vivian says that's impossible. She notices Lily acting strange and asks if she's sick. Lily responds that maybe she's allergic to the smell of bats. Back with Yoshihito, we see him playing cards with Isaac and Satsuki as they near their destination. Suddenly, they appear to be under attack. Yoshihito gets worried, but the captain's hologram appears, saying a rival company called Fiery wants to overtake them, but they won't let that happen. Thus, a space race begins. Data tells Yoshihito to hurry and take a smaller ship to land at the destination because if they stay, they'll end up light years away. They have 4 minutes to get the ship. Isaac asks if he should go and knocks out the captain. Data warns that they could be arrested for that. They reach the small ship, but no one knows how to pilot it. Data says there is a spot where he can take control, but there's a problem. The hatch they need to exit is locked for security, and Data doesn't have access to open it. Isaac offers to open it, saying he's been in space without a suit and likes it. Yoshihito agrees and entrusts him with the task. Later, we see Isaac ready to open the hatch. He transforms into his demon form and opens the door. Data takes the opportunity to launch the ship. Isaac positions himself on top as they enter the planet's atmosphere where the new tenant awaits. The planet seems to be all ocean. Yoshihito asks if Isaac is okay, and he says yes. Upon entering the planet, Data reports the ship got damaged and they're about to crash. Yoshihito gets worried, and they crash into the sea. We see the ship sinking while in the distance. A mermaid appears, commenting on how beautiful she is, and wondering if she will die there. The siren approaches Yoshihito, and after staring at each other intensely, he wakes up in the dream dimension. Data tells him that, feeling like he was drowning, his mind entered an unstable state, causing him to arrive in that dimension. However, Data reassures him since Satsuki is helping him from the other side, informing her about the situation, as Yoshihito can manifest in both dimensions. After that, Yoshihito leaves and sees that the wolves whose fangs he removed are at a disadvantage, fighting against another pack of red wolves. Feeling guilty, he joins the battle to defend them, activating his shield, which causes the red wolves to flee. The pack leader thanks him, but doesn't like being humiliated that way. Yoshihito calms the tension by reminding him of the promise he made, pulling out the card Raven gave him and extracting a kind of pills from it. With these pills, the wolves' fangs can heal. The pack refuses help from a human, but their leader reminds them that Yoshihito saved them, so they can trust him. The leader takes one of the pills and, upon swallowing it, feels his body improve, regaining his fangs. After giving the other wolves the pills, the leader thanks Yoshihito for keeping his promise. Yoshihito asks for a favor, to give him information about the piece of metal he found the last time he was in that dimension. The leader tells him it's the ancient Ascient script, an old writing carved by humans. These inscriptions were used to bring luck, something now known as a talisman. Then Data appears to warn Yoshihito that he's about to wake up, and just at that moment, the pack leader was about to tell him a story between humans and wolves that he didn't finish. While in a trance, Yoshihito thinks that the ancient script in the real world is called Leda writing, while in the dream dimension it's known as Ascient writing. Yoshihito manages to wake up thanks to Isaac, who gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Data tells him that while he was asleep, he scanned the planet they're on, finding information that might guide them to find the new tenant. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lily, while eating with Vivian, begins to feel strange again, her eye color changing and acting erratically, though it passes quickly. But that's not all. Outside the house are two men who might be hunters, waiting for the right moment to attack, as if they know what's happening to Lily. Back with Yoshihito and his group, they've advanced through a forest and are a few meters from their goal. When they emerge, they find the tenant's crashed ship, but upon checking it, they find nothing. Data reports that the tenant was in the ship's compartment, but judging by the wreckage, that compartment is missing, so the tenant might be okay. Now they must head to the sea, where the ship's compartment is located. Once there, Satsuki dives into the water, transforming into a siren, the same siren Yoshihito saw when he was drowning. The cargo compartment is 2,000 meters underwater, so they must dive. Yoshihito doubts he can hold his breath that long, but Satsuki invites him to go with her, since she can take him down there. Yoshihito is launched into the water by Isaac and immediately dragged down by Satsuki. There, Yoshihito feels he can breathe because Satsuki can control the water and pressure. Thanks to a bubble that Satsuki placed around Yoshihito, they move easily underwater. However, they are attacked by a shark from that planet, but Satsuki transforms into a giant octopus, scaring it away. Yoshihito is surprised she can turn into an octopus, and she shows him she can be anything, then transforming into a shrimp so he can ride on her back and swim faster toward the cargo compartment. Upon arrival, Satsuki creates a giant bubble covering the area they are going to explore. Data informs them that although the cabin was damaged outside, its interior remains intact. When they enter the compartment, they realize no one is there, so they call Raven to inform her what happened. Meanwhile, Satsuki finds an egg and baby items. Then Raven tells Yoshihito that his tenant is the egg, but to give more details, she asks him to go to the surface to talk better. Once outside, they see a ship approaching. Raven arrives on it to deliver the news that the ship is now his. She also tells him about the egg. It turns out the egg is a nymph's egg from another world, coming from the ruined dimension, and it's the last form of life from that dimension. Yoshihito doesn't feel ready to take care of an egg, especially with all that responsibility over a being that's going extinct. Raven tells him the egg is resilient and that he also has Satsuki, a siren, and sirens are a species similar to nymphs, so there won't be a problem. After that, they ask Yoshihito to pilot the ship back to Earth, for which he must use his terminal, while Data controls the ship. After that, we see Yoshihito being teleported home along with Satsuki and Isaac. When they enter, they find everything destroyed and in chaos. Satsuki thinks they were lied to and robbed, but they hear Vivian trying to calm Lily. Yoshihito asks what happened. Vivian has Lily tied up and says she's been acting strangely and out of control. Lily breaks free and attacks Yoshihito. He defends himself with his barrier. Isaac restrains Lily, and Yoshihito asks Data to teleport them to the subdivision. Data replies that, given Lily's condition, it's better not to. Isaac says he can take them and starts drawing a teleportation circle with soy sauce. Vivian comments it's the first time she's seen a demon do that. Isaac says any liquid works for that, activates the spell, and teleports them all to the subdivision. Meanwhile, at the subdivision, Raven is enjoying her instant noodles until Yoshihito and his tenants interrupt her. He approaches and tells her they have a problem. Raven asks if the problem is Lily, while lifting the leg where Lily is biting. But then, she gently holds Lily's head and makes her look into her eyes. Lily calms down and tells Raven she has noodles in her mouth. Raven blushes and tells her to just focus on looking at her eyes. Vivian wonders if Raven can heal her. Yoshihito asks them to trust Raven. Raven asks what Lily sees. Lily says she sees a big red moon and people on it, people melting into the sea. Then she loses control again and attacks Raven, who blocks the attack and knocks Lily out with a light blow to the forehead. Raven tells Yoshihito Lily isn't sick but will soon evolve. Surprised, he asks for an explanation. She says Lily's kind evolves over the years, and during this process they take on a wolf form to awaken new powers. But Lily still has a long way to go. That's why Raven suspects someone gave her a stimulant that sped up the process. Yoshihito recalls the red moon Vivian created, making Vivian feel responsible for what happened. Raven tells them they can use the rehab center to heal Lily. Yoshihito thanks her and takes Lily along with Vivian. Raven asks Satsuki and Isaac if they're enjoying their new life. They say they're having a lot of fun. Later, we see Yoshihito and his tenants watching over Lily, who is awake and apologizes for the trouble she caused. Everyone is relieved, and Yoshihito tells them to head home early because he needs to talk to Raven, but will come back later. He also asks them to take care of Lily. They agree and leave. A while later, Yoshihito meets with Raven, who asks about Lily's condition. When she hears Lily is better, she asks Yoshihito to write a report on what happened in England and space, warning he won't get paid if he refuses. She also asks how he feels living with fantastic creatures. Regarding work, Yoshihito says he hasn't had a break, but enjoys having his tenants around, knowing they will always be there to help. Raven tells him Lily's evolution must finish. They only stopped it by force, but it still needs to be completed for Lily's sake. So, he has to wait for the full moon, which will happen the very next night. That mission is left to Yoshihito since Raven will be busy. The next day, we see Yoshihito return home with some groceries, and Dada reminds him tonight is the full moon. Yoshihito says thinking about it gives him a stomachache, but that he has what he needs to camp and spend the night outside. At that moment, a guy with yellow glasses watches him. Later, we see Yoshihito arrive home and find Vivian preparing medicine for Lily. Seeing the medicine, Yoshihito says it looks like poison, but also asks if Lily will be ready by sunset since he wants to go camping. Vivian says yes, and he asks about Lily. Vivian replies that she is asleep. Later, we see Yoshihito and his tenants at a place far from the city, camping and waiting for Lily's evolution. They spend time playing and having fun. Vivian asks Lily if she still doesn't feel anything. She replies it's not something she can control. Later, everyone falls asleep. Then, we see Lily outside staring fixedly at the moon. Lily howls, waking everyone up, who go outside to witness Lily's transformation process. Yoshihito tries to talk to her, but it's impossible because Lily has lost her mind again and begins attacking them. Isaac warns everyone and says he made a barrier spell. They all protect themselves there while watching Lily's transformation, which ends with her taking the form of a giant wolf. Data appears congratulating them since it's a Siberian husky. Yoshihito approaches Lily and she starts licking him. Then she howls loudly, attracting the attention of two hunters who watch from afar. Vivian throws a tranquilizer medicine to Lily, but it doesn't work and causes her to lose control, heading toward the city. Seeing this, Yoshihito tells everyone to follow her to stop her. On the way, he tells Isaac to hold her and Vivian to lift him so they can fly over Lily, as he has an idea to calm her. Isaac tries to stop her but is hit by Lily and thrown onto Satsuki. Vivian stops her and lets Yoshihito ride on Satsuki's back. He tries to talk to Lily and make her come to her senses, but he can't. Then Satsuki sings. We see her in her mermaid form on Isaac's shoulders. Lily calms down and falls asleep. Satsuki returns to her human form and covers Yoshihito's eyes because Lily was turning back into her human form and was naked. Vivian covers her with some clothes and says it won't last long, so they return home. The next day, we see Yoshihito caring for Lily, but being knocked out by one of the hunters, who decide to continue with the plan by entering Yoshihito's home. Lily, in a sort of dream, discovers one of her new powers. She extends claws like a wolverine. On her left hand, the claws are cold, and on her right, hot. After that, she wakes up and finds herself in an abandoned warehouse. When she tries to leave, an electrified barrier stops her. Lily thinks it's Vivian's doing, but then realizes the two hunters from before have her captive. They tell her they are her allies, leaving her confused. Lily tries to escape again, but they knock her out. Later, we learn that the two are brothers. The older one, who wears glasses, is named Kasan. The younger, with dyed hair, is Yuan. They aren't hunters, but wolves who believe Vivian, being a vampire, is deceiving Lily. They also want to teach her more about werewolves, her species, so she can help their clan. They leave the warehouse unaware that one of Vivian's creatures is with Lily, overhearing everything. Meanwhile, Yoshihito wakes up and explains to the others what happened, implying Lily was kidnapped. At that moment, Vivian's creature appears, but doesn't reveal anything because it's exhausted. Vivian tries to synchronize with it to learn what happened, but it fails. Data then appears, analyzes the creature, and finds traces of metal and glass. This leads them to conclude Lily might be in a factory. Yoshihito mentions there's a metal factory nearby where they can investigate. To save time, only Yoshihito and Vivian will go to the factory, while Satsuki and Isaac investigate separately. On the other side, Kasan and Yuan realize they've been tracked, so they prepare a trap. Yuan uses his power to cover the entire warehouse so no one can enter, and anyone who tries will trigger an explosion. They also say if the vampire comes to rescue Lily, they'll show their power. Back to Vivian, she flies with Yoshihito toward the factory where Lily is. She sends several bats to scout but loses connection with one. When she recalls it, she senses something about the warehouse, a thick black mist, probably a strong magic she can't cross. Yoshihito, however, can cross it since Vivian discovered at the castle ruins that he can nullify magic. Thanks to this ability, they might get inside. Vivian carries Yoshihito to help him enter from above, but they are attacked by Yuan, who had anticipated their arrival. He transforms into a werewolf, vowing not to let them take his companion. Vivian dodges some attacks and leaves Yoshihito in a safe spot. Meanwhile, Satsuki and Isaac arrive at the same factory but encounter some workers and end up playing a board game with them, unaware of the battle taking place. Returning to Vivian, she distracts Yuan, giving Yoshihito the chance to go after Lily. During the fight, Yuan recognizes Vivian's name and realizes she is the Red Moon Countess. Back to Yoshihito, after climbing the warehouse, he enters through a window but is immediately attacked by Kasan, now in werewolf form. Yoshihito can't see where the attacks come from but manages to dodge them with his protective shield. All he can do is flee, but Kasan follows him wherever he goes. And this is because, being a wolf, Kasan can detect him by his scent. Dada recommends Yoshihito to fight since his power should be advanced and he has the skills to face him. But Yoshihito still doesn't trust himself and keeps escaping, dodging Kasan's attacks. Once he jumps so high he reaches the fire sprinkler system and has the idea to activate it to disturb Kasan's sense of smell. Thanks to that, he manages to escape and and go after Lily. After passing through several air ducts, he finds her, wakes her up, and gets ready to leave. But on his way, he runs into Kasan again, who blocks their escape. Kasan says he won't let them take his ally. At that moment, Vivian appears, entering through the wall after defeating Yuen. Kasan rushes to check on his brother, while Vivian reunites with Yoshihito and Lily. Yuen tells Kasan they are fighting against the Countess. Kasan gets angry, believing Lily is siding with someone stronger to abandon them. Knowing it's all a misunderstanding, Yoshihito suggests talking it out, so they meet, and he ends up telling them the story of how he met Lily and Vivian, and how now they live in his house as tenants. Kasan explains why he kidnapped Lily. They initially thought she'd been brainwashed or trained to stay with a vampire. Even if that's not the case, all fantastic beings have been gathering with their kind lately. This is because the day of the siren's prophecy is approaching. It's said that day will mark the resurgence of the fantastic beings and a great battle will take place. At that moment, they're interrupted by a group of hunters following their trail. These hunters look different from Nangu's, but what's most interesting is that they are accompanied by a man wearing a suit. The brothers prepare for battle. The man in a suit, Ryusei, won't allow an alliance between monsters and orders the brothers to come with them. They refuse but are shot with tranquilizer darts. Yoshihito steps in to ask why they attack fantastic beings, and they reply, "It's what hunters do." Ryusei gives Yoshihito a chance to leave and hand over the beings, but he refuses. Ryusei orders to proceed, capture the brothers, and kill the rest. The hunters fire crossbows while Yoshihito shields everyone with his barrier. Vivian distracts the hunters to help them escape, and Lily transforms to assist in the distraction. Both leave the warehouse, but Yoshihito remains trapped with the brothers. He uses data like a flash grenade, asking it to illuminate the whole area, blinding the enemies and allowing them to escape. However, the hunter's ability to teleport short distances helps them catch up quickly. With no choice, the brothers prepare to fight, leaving Yoshihito alone. Yoshihito is intercepted by a hunter named Kaoshi, who senses he isn't an ordinary human and suspects he's some strange species she wants to study. He tries to escape, but she blocks him, and he distracts her to get close. If you recall, this is the fight from the anime's start. Without much effort, Yoshihito knocks Kaoshi out by slamming her to the ground. He runs to help the others and sees Vivian get injured and caught in the air. Lily enrages, extends her new claws, and takes down the hunters who hurt Vivian. Vivian tells Yoshihito she's fine and urges them to help Kasan and Yuen, who have been defeated but still resist surrendering. Kasan is badly hurt by a demon hunter, which angers Yuen, who attacks the assailant. Ryusei, fed up with their defiance, stabs Yuen with a special knife that freezes or shatters half his body, saying he must kill one to take the other. Kasan begs Ryusei to spare him and kill him instead. Ryusei uses Yuen to threaten Kasan into revealing the prophecy. Yoshihito arrives to protect them, and Lily, seeing Yuen's state, activates her claws again. Ryusei tries to fight her but fails and retreats. Lily creates whirlwinds of fire and ice that collide, forming a thick fog they use to escape into the forest. There, Yoshihito pulls out his card and gives healing pills to the brothers. Kasan recovers, but Yuen doesn't improve even after 2 doses. Vivian arrives to say they're not being pursued. Then Satsuki and Isaac show up. After winning a board game against some workers, they went looking but couldn't find them. Yoshihito explains about demon hunters and the Wolf brothers. Satsuki approaches to heal Yuen using water magic and asks everyone to step back, wrapping Yuen in a bubble of water. Meanwhile, Kasan finally explains the prophecy to everyone, mentioning that fantastic beings and demon hunters have been killing each other for a long time. However, it's believed this prophecy will bring about the resurgence of the glory of the fantastic beings. The prophecy says that one day the fantastic beings will grow stronger, while the demon hunters will weaken. As Kasan continues, Satsuki thinks this prophecy might be a clue to find her parents since she is a siren. He explains that in preparation for the battle on that day, fantastic beings are gathering others of their kind. That's why they wanted to take Lily, so she could fight alongside them. Lily mentions she would have agreed if asked nicely, but Kasan replies they thought Vivian had her under control. Afterwards, Satsuki finishes healing, restoring Yuen to health. Kasan thanks them and apologizes for how he acted all this time. At that moment, demon hunters find them and attack from the forest. One tries to fight but is quickly defeated by Isaac. From afar, Ryusei approaches to handle the fight himself. Isaac takes responsibility and fights against him. Ryusei throws an enchanted knife at Isaac, but when it hits, it melts instantly. Isaac proposes talking, but Ryusei throws more knives. None effective. Isaac slowly approaches while trying to convert him. Ryusei feels Isaac's presence like a meteor is about to fall on him, and terrified, he tries to run away. Isaac uses an ability to pull him back, forcing Ryusei to change. When Ryusei refuses, Isaac knocks him out with one hit. Now safe, Kasan and his brother decide to leave and return to their family to report what happened. Before leaving, Satsuki asks Kasan why the prophecy bears the siren's name. Kasan tells her that long ago, sirens came to land and spoke of an era when their enemies would decline and glory would shine through unity and strength leading to victory. It's essentially the same prophecy he mentioned before, just described differently. Kasan prepares to leave, but invites Lily to join them. She refuses to abandon her friends. After Kasan and his brother depart, Yoshihito prepares to leave with his group, taking as prisoners the hunter who attacked them and Ryusei. Then, Kaoshi appears and takes Satsuki hostage, demanding the release of her comrades. Isaac gets ready to intervene, but to everyone's surprise, Nangu, the top demon hunter, arrives. Nangu claims he's from a higher division, convincing Kaoshi to follow his orders. First, he asks her to release Satsuki for an exchange. Isaac hands over the two captives to Kaoshi. Kaoshi leaves with her team, leaving everything in Nangu's hands. Still, Kaoshi is caught in the forest since Data sent an update to Raven. Meanwhile, Nangu is struck by Satsuki, revealing she is his sister, the same one he saw in the portrait at the hotel. That news shocks everyone. At dawn, while at Yoshihito's house, Nangu explains to everyone that she is his sister, but as they notice, they don't get along well. That's because Satsuki can't stand how overprotective her brother is since he's been following her everywhere, even to the hot springs. There was even a time when she almost died because of the protective talismans he placed on her. Yoshihito then guesses that Nangu might also be a siren or something like that, but Nangu explains he is a demon hunter since his father is also one and his mother is a siren. Everyone finds it strange that a fantastic creature had children with a demon hunter, so they get curious and ask more about them. Satsuki tells them her parents disappeared suddenly, and she hadn't told them anything, although she's been traveling all this time searching for them. Changing the subject, Nangu just learns that Yoshihito's tenants are fantastic creatures. They hesitate to trust him, but Satsuki says he would never betray them because he doesn't socialize much with other demon hunters and is rather clumsy. Now that trust is established, the others introduce themselves. Vivian as the vampire, Isaac as the demon from England, and Lily presents herself as a wolf, but they say she's really a dog. More precisely, a husky. Lily refuses to believe it, so Vivian runs a blood test that confirms she has no wolf DNA whatsoever. After that, Kasan and Yuen visit, and when they discover Nangu is a demon hunter, they try to fight him. Isaac calms them down with some punches and explains that Nangu is on their side and not smart enough to act alone. Once the problem is solved, Kasan explains why they are there. After returning to their family, they came back to ask them to join their clan to prepare for the prophecy. Vivian and the others don't fully believe in the prophecy, but Kasan tries to convince them by showing a gold ingot he will give them if they accept, plus another ingot for each fantastic creature that joins. Yoshihito and the others try not to fall for the bribe. Right then, the house loses power. Thinking it's an enemy, they stay alert but soon realize it's no one, and the water also isn't working. Yoshihito realizes the utilities were cut off, leaving his bank account empty since it's tough to live and feed 5 people. Still, they don't accept Kasan's offer yet. Feeling overwhelmed, Yoshihito decides to take a nap while the others plan how to get money some other way. When Yoshihito wakes up, things are still not working and no one is in the house, so he asks Data to take him to Raven. Meanwhile, his tenants and Nangu decide to find some way to earn money to help him. Lily gets a job at a dog-themed cafe where she does very well. Seeing this, Vivian decides to find Isaac, who was about to destroy a forest since he worked as a logger. She also gathers Satsuki, who was playing guitar in the plaza. Their plan is to search for treasures underwater to raise more money than Lily. As for Nangu, he went to climb a mountain searching for gold. While all this is happening, Yoshihito asks Raven for a raise. Although she initially refuses, she eventually agrees. Yoshihito asks Raven about the prophecy, and she responds that those matters belong to the fantastic creatures and that he should not interfere. Still, Yoshihito wants to do his part to help them, so he's determined to do everything possible for them to live in peace. In response, Raven tells him that his next mission will be in the dream dimension. This time, he will be present there, unlike the previous occasions, so he must be careful, as his body could suffer some effects upon returning. That night, Yoshihito returns home and finds that the electricity is back on. Upon entering, he sees everyone waiting with a feast, explaining they worked hard to gather the money and pay the bills. Once together, Yoshihito tells them about his new mission, which involves entering the dream dimension and possibly solving the mystery of the prophecy there. His companions decide to accompany him, each having their own reason to go to that dimension. Meanwhile, Nangu realizes there is no gold at the mountain peaks and ends up trapped. At the same time, Lily starts cooking and finds the egg Yoshihito had rescued. By the time they notice, it's too late, but to their surprise, the egg begins to hatch, marking the end of this anime's first season.